The time you spend studying does not equal the amount of knowledge that you gain from studying in that amount of time, right? You know this. You spend like 5 hours studying for like an exam, but do you really gain like 5 hours worth of knowledge? Like, it's not equivalent. So first things first, get that concept out of your head, right? It doesn't do anything, right? Like, just because you spend hours and hours studying does not mean you get hours and hours worth of knowledge. This is where the concept of the 80-20 rule comes in, right? So you have to ask yourself, what in these 5 hours is really making the biggest difference, right? Because the 80-20 rule states that 20% or the minority of the action gives the majority of the result. So like 80% of the results, right? So ask yourself, what in these 5 hours, or what in this whatever amount of time that I'm studying is actually giving me like the good results, right? The majority of the results, right? So really focus on that. Don't jot down everything that you take, right? If you're like in lecture or like you're in class, don't jot down everything, right? Because not everything's important. Like a good 20% of it is, right? So really like understand what is really important, what's going to be on the exam, right? Because essentially that's all you need to know, right? Everything else is just like garbage. You can just take it out, right? Because your brain is so limited in like what it can remember. So really focus on this 80-20 rule, right? Because it's kind of like a universal principle in like the universe, I guess, right? So really focus down on this 80-20 rule. Do some more research about it if you've never heard about it before. But yeah, essentially the minority of the action produces the majority of the result. So the little bits and pieces that are kind of hidden in your study guide are probably what's going to be on the exam, right? So just like really look into that. The next thing is, when you're in lecture, don't take notes, take questions, right? Write down questions. Don't necessarily write down notes. I personally never write down notes, right? I'm just lazy. Matter of fact, let me actually show you right quick. Like, I always do this, right? At the beginning of like every like new term, I'm like, yeah, let's be studious, take down notes. So like I take down notes for like the first like day, right? Like the first like couple of days, right? And then after that, bro, it's just all empty. It's just all empty. The first like 3 pages have the notes. After that, everything else is empty. So this is the notes, everything else is empty in there. So like, I personally don't take notes, right? I just don't like doing it. I don't know why, I just don't. But what I do take down is questions. I ask myself, like, questions. So for example, like, let's say you're like in like a chemistry class, right? Instead of like writing down what element is which, right? And all that stuff, like write down a question. Which element does X reactive activity? Or like, what reactive activity is caused by what element? Ask some of these questions in like your notebook, because that's much closer to what's going to be on the exam than like Na equals sodium, right? Is it sodium? I don't even know. So definitely write down questions, I believe, instead of just writing down notes, because notes only get you so far and they're not always important. They're not always going to be on the exam, right? This next thing, I believe, is going to transform every aspect of studying and just going to make you like a study god. So this next one is SRS, Space Repetition System flashcards, right? This is how I learned Japanese, which I could make another video on. But essentially, you know flashcards, right? One side has a question, the other side has the answer, and you just review it. With an SRS, it's that same thing, but it doesn't give you the flashcard until you're just about to forget it, which then keeps it in your long-term memory, right? So if I know that like Na equals sodium, right? Just for example, right? If I always know it, it's not going to show me that card. But if I'm struggling with another card, it's going to show me that card more often, right? So this is a great way. This is actually what med school students use. They use SRS flashcards. The one I personally use is Anki. I can leave a link down below. It's free, nothing. There's actually a lot of already pre-made decks already, so all you have to do is review them. It's completely free. So download that and then make your own deck with like what information you have to learn and what you keep struggling with, and make flashcards on them. Because when you do, it gives it to you and you review it in a way where it's going to stick to your long-term memory, instead of just like a Quizlet, for example, where you just like review flashcards every day. It doesn't do that. It only shows you the flashcard when you're about to forget it. So I believe this is a great way. It was how Japanese stuck into my long-term memory, you know? And then the last and final thing is just, you guys probably know this, but distractions. Remove them. Just remove them, right? Video games, phone, social media, just remove all that stuff. I think we've all had those days where like a 30-minute homework assignment took us like 3 hours just because we were on our phones. You don't want that. Just remove your phone. Use it after, right? Just tell yourself, okay, I can watch Netflix after I finish all this homework first, right? Or I can play video games after I finish all this homework first, right? Just tell yourself that. And you're pretty much good. Like, you're pretty much good. So don't necessarily take notes, take questions, do the 80-20 rule, use an SRS system, and remove all distractions. And then you're golden, bro. Like, it's not that hard, honestly. Just do those things, do practice exams, and it's not hard. Just remember to keep working hard, and success is coming your way. Yeah.